Chrollo is Kurapika's #1 op. This man is out for blood and revenge. But what if these two were forced to work together against an even stronger common enemy? I am of course referring to the 4th Prince Tserriednich, perhaps the most talented nin user we have ever seen in the series. Let's talk about it. First of all, shout out to my guy Hinok for asking me about this today, and y'all can pause to read the whole thing, but essentially he's asking if Tserriednich actually gets his Zetsu to under 1 second, which means he gets his parallel future activation to under 1 second, how is someone gonna beat him? And perhaps it'll be by laying traps that he, isn't even aware of in his vision of the future, and that'll be how he gets got, right? So he wanted to know my thoughts on that, and also who I think he will ultimately end up fighting. And for anyone curious about his ability and how that works and how talented he is, I have other videos explaining that, and those are like in-depth subjects, so we're not going to get into that here. But when it comes to like setting traps in parallel future, I don't even know if that would work necessarily, right? Because if we're assuming that he does get that Zetsu under 1 second and he does actually get that 10-second glimpse into the future, then if he activates a trap, he knows he activates a trap, right? And one thing Hinok mentioned was Gyo and how, you can make things invisible, but, if you use Gyo, you can then see it. Now, it is interesting whether or not the vision within parallel future would have Gyo, right? So like, would the vision be able to see invisible things? And I think that's what Hinok is getting at. And maybe not, right? But again, if in that vision, even if it's invisible, he sees himself spring a trap, then he then knows it's there even though he can't see it per se, right? So I don't think it'll be as easy as just him getting got in that regard. I think whenever this fight happens, it's going to be incredibly complicated, which makes sense for Togashi, right? Especially given the nature of this ability. I can't even really imagine how this fight is going to go down, but I just think it's going to be cerebral. And honestly, knowing Togashi and knowing just all of the different strings that are at play in the Succession War, we might not even get like a typical shonen like big throwdown, right? There might be like just other elements to this fight that kind of prevent your standard one-on-one of like, oh, I'm going to use parallel future versus your ability, and we're going to go back and forth, right? I'm imagining something more layered than that. And as you might have guessed from the start of this video, an idea I think would be really cool is if this forced Kurapika and Chrollo to work together, because Tserriednich is a monster, right? And if he reaches his full potential, it might take something like them combining efforts to beat him. And as far as why these two might work together, well, I've actually put out videos talking about the potential connections there before, but essentially the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Tserriednich might be the one responsible for the Kurta clan massacre, and he might have ties to the death of Sarada as well.